What is up, fam? It's your boy Paul P. Henny, and this is the One Day at a Time podcast. That's right. And fam, remember, we are coming at you every single week, every Monday to be exact. And so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment because I want to know what you're thinking, and leave a rating wherever you get your podcast. And fam, once again, share, because you never know if somebody else may get something from this content that we are sharing with you. So fam, today I want to talk about a subject, okay, that really hits close to home with me. And quite honestly, I believe this topic is going to hit home with quite a few of you out there. And that topic is frustration. That's right. The topic is frustration. But we don't want to just talk about being frustrated. I want to talk about how we overcome frustration. Fam, how do we overcome frustration? And I want to talk about it from the lens of this thought right here. Don't allow frustration to occupy your capacity. Serve frustration his eviction notice and make room for your purpose. I'm going to read that again, fam, because I really want us to get this, okay? Don't allow frustration to occupy your capacity. Serve frustration. Serve Mr. Frustration. Let's call him a person, right? Serve Mr. Frustration his eviction notice and make room for your purpose. Now, fam, what I want to talk about today is this thing about frustration and how all of us have dealt with it. That's right. All of us have dealt with frustration at one point or another. Whether it be frustration with your job, frustration with your finances, frustration with a relationship, right? Because all of us have had difficult relationships, whether it's friends or family, that we've had to deal with. And fam, quite honestly, sometimes the frustration just comes because life is just lifing. You may not be able to really put a finger on why you're dealing with that frustration. But here's the thing. While the frustration that you're dealing with may be legitimate, and for the most part, fam, that frustration that we're dealing with is legitimate, right? It's legitimate. We can easily allow it to take us off the course of our purpose. Once again, while that frustration that you are dealing with, that I may be dealing with, what we don't want is for that frustration to take us off the course of moving toward our purpose. For example, in one of my earlier podcast episodes, I talked about the time when I lost my job. For those who hadn't seen it, it's the obstacle or opportunity. That was the name of that podcast, right? Obstacle or opportunity. Not go into detail, but basically what happened was I was laid off from a school that I just knew that I was supposed to be working at that season of my life. I was there for about 5 months. And then in December, HR and whoever my supervisors were at the time, they came in and they let us know that our campus was shutting down. I'll never forget it. I mean, I get this notification in the holiday season that I'm about to lose my job in about 3 weeks. I never dealt with that before. In the year prior, I lost all backup income, right? All the income that I'd saved, all of my savings, I lost it over a series of events. And now you're telling me that I'm about to lose my job? You know, my wife and I, we felt like we were on the right track with some other things that we were going through. We had 2 sons. She was pregnant with our third. And now you're telling me that not only am I about to lose my job, but I'm about to lose any health insurance that I currently have at this time. Fam, what is a man to do? What is a brother to do? So of course I go out there and I'm applying for jobs. And after a couple of weeks, or a month of applying for jobs, after a while, fam, I'll be honest, a brother was frustrated. I was frustrated because I didn't ask for this. I went into the school thinking that I'm going to have an impact on somebody's life, not knowing that that campus would be shut down and that they would send the students to another campus. They sent the students to another campus. Half of our staff was sent to another campus, but the other half of us were laid off. We were laid off while working in the field of our passion, because one thing I can say about our entire staff that was serving that school, all of us were passionate about the work that we were doing. So I was laid off from a position that I was working in that I just knew was the right thing for me to be doing, that was a part of my passion. And my wife is pregnant with our third child. And we have these 2 young sons at home. And as a man, fam, I was frustrated. Because not only am I trying to provide for my family, but I'm also trying to do something to make a difference in somebody's lives. And I lose that job. I lose the ability to provide for my family. And I remember applying for job. And 1 month goes by, 2 months goes by. We end up having a baby. And I love my son David. He, at the time of this recording, he's about 8 years old, and I love him so much. But at the time of his birth, fam, I didn't have a job, and we're a couple months into my layoff, and I'm frustrated. But about a month later, I get that encouragement. Paul, maybe there's something that you have time to do now that you haven't had time to do before. See, basically what he was encouraging me to do, and Pastor Doss, if you're watching this, I appreciate you, sir. Okay? Because basically what he was encouraging me to do was to find my purpose and to see if I could maybe use some of the time, maybe move some of this frustration aside and move closer to my purpose. In order for me to do that, I had to evict frustration. And I had to say, frustration, I'm not going to allow you to occupy my capacity, to occupy my mental space, to occupy everything that I'm thinking, and I'm going to kick your tail out and I'm going to move toward my purpose. And that night, I wrote the words, Bobby was frustrated. And I wrote the whole first chapter of my book that night. And then the next night, I said, you know what? I have another idea. And then I wrote the second chapter the next night. Meanwhile, I'm still applying for jobs because I still have a family to support, fam. But what I was noticing was that the closer I moved toward my purpose, the more that I was walking in my purpose, what I noticed was that frustration began to leave. First, I had to take the step and say, you know what, frustration, I'm tired of you and you got to go. Then I found a step. I'm going to start writing this book. And the more I wrote, fam, that frustration became a distant memory. Was I still applying for jobs? Yes. Did I find a job right away? No. I was still responsible in what I was doing. As a matter of fact, I found some odd jobs, okay? I'm not the best when it comes to working with my hands, but I ended up working with a general contractor and helped them with a few projects just to help bring in some money for my family. I was at the blood bank, donating plasma. And guess what? Sometimes while I'm donating plasma, I'm thinking of ideas that I can write, in this book that would eventually have an impact on somebody's life. Purpose. You see, fam, what ended up happening was I had to say frustration, what I'm dealing with, yes, it is legitimate. And I don't ever take away the legitimacy of a struggle. The legitimacy of a trial. These are real things that we deal with, but if we are not careful, we can allow that frustration to occupy us so much that it takes us completely off the course of our purpose. And fam, I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. And I know somebody that I'm talking to right now, you're dealing with this situation. I know you are. You know, if I'm being transparent, there are some things in my life where I might be dealing with that same frustration as well. But fam, I have learned that part of my strategy to overcome that frustration is to remember my purpose and find a step that I can take toward walking in my purpose. Walking in my purpose. What's my purpose and what step can I take to walk into it? Yes, this frustration is legitimate, but guess what? I've learned that I'm more than a conqueror through Christ Jesus. That's how I believe, right? So eventually I'm going to overcome whatever this frustrating thing is. And guess what? When I come out on the other side, not only will that frustration or whatever that thing is be dealt with, but guess what? I'm also closer to my purpose. I'm that much closer to my purpose because I didn't allow frustration to take me off of the course. But what's your purpose? What's your purpose? Part of my purpose is talking to you right now. Talking to you by way of this podcast, real, short, however you looking at me. Part of my purpose is to be talking to you right now. And I can't allow frustration that I may be dealing with in my life to keep me from talking to you and encouraging you. Because fam, like I said, we are in this together. And in order for us to accomplish things one day at a time together, we can't allow frustration to occupy our capacity. We have to figure out a way to move toward that purpose. Fam, I want to hear from some of y'all. Whether it's in the comments on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, I want to hear from you. How have you been moving toward your frustration? Because we can't allow frustration to overcome us. We have to learn how to be overcomers. We have to learn how to be overcomers. Once again, that doesn't mean that our frustration is not real. It doesn't mean that it's not real. You see, where is the victory? Come on, fam. Where is the victory if there was never a trial? Where is the victory if there was never a trial? How are we overcoming if there's nothing to overcome? What makes a overcomer is you see the situation in front of you. You see the hurdles, the barriers in front of you, and you say, you know what? Beyond this barrier, beyond this hurdle, I see the end goal. And I'm not going to allow this barrier, this hurdle to get in the way of me reaching that end goal. And in this case, it is our purpose. The frustration, barrier. Frustration number 2 is a hurdle. You know, it might be a gap, and you say, you know what, Paul, this gap, it just seems so big, but I'm so focused on my purpose that I'm going to do whatever I can. If I can't jump on it over this hurdle, I'm going to put a few 2x4s down, and I'm going to figure out a way to crawl, to climb over whatever this gap is in this ground. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. This frustration will not have me. It's not going to have me, fam. It's not going to have me because I have a purpose. You have a purpose. You have a purpose. You have a purpose. And your purpose is too big to allow Mr. Frustration to be hanging out at your crib. The crib in your mind. Chilling. Just hanging out. Taking up space. God meant more for you than that. God meant more for you than that. His purpose for your life is bigger. His plan for your life is bigger. But never did he say that you wouldn't face trials, that you wouldn't face frustration. But the challenge is, fam, when that frustration comes? What do you do? What do you do? I'm going to tell you right now, some of y'all have been allowing frustration to get to you. Some of y'all have allowed frustration just to come up in your house, make his own little place, take up a whole room in your house, right? And I'm here right now to encourage you. And if you need me, I'm going to be right there with you. I'm going to tell Mr. Frustration, it is time for you to go. Because I have a purpose to get to. I have a purpose to get to. And here, fam, here's how we're going to do it. Here's how we're going to do it. One day at a time. This is what I want you to do. You figure out what that purpose is. And you figure out the first step. Not the end goal, right? Okay? Maybe you have some idea of whatever that end goal is, but we're not focusing on the end goal right now. I want you to focus on that first step. And I want you to do it. Okay? You say, today, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not going to accomplish everything today, but today I can focus on this one step. And you get it done. The next day, this is what you do, fam. You figure out, what is my next step? Okay? You identify that next step, and then you do it. Okay? So now you're a couple of steps closer to achieving that purpose. And fam, what you do is day by day, one day at a time, you continue to identify whatever those achievable steps are, and you do them. And you get it done. And you don't let anybody or anything stop you from getting that one simple step done. Not the whole goal, just that one simple step. Just that one simple step. Fam, I think about the Apostle Paul, and I'm actually going to read something. And I recall, learning that he was in prison when he wrote the book of Philippians. And I recall reading that scripture where he says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I think about, okay, he was in prison writing this thing. So I can guarantee that he probably dealt with a little bit of frustration. But he didn't allow frustration to keep him from writing something that would encourage so many of us years and years and years later. But here's what he said even before that verse. In verse 12, I know both how to have a little and I know how to have a lot. In any and all circumstances, I've learned the secret of being content, whether well fed or hungry, whether in abundance or in need. I am able to do all things through him who strengthens me. Do you think that maybe he could have also been referencing some form of frustration as well? You see, but he knew he had a purpose. And he didn't allow the frustration to overwhelm him to the point where he was off the course of his purpose. Fam, I'm going to remind you, you cannot allow frustration to occupy your capacity. You have to continue to make room for your purpose. And how do we do it, fam? One day at a time. Remember, we are in this together. We're in this together, fam. And what we're going to continue to do is we're going to continue to learn together. We're going to continue to grow together. And we are going to continue to kick frustration's tail out of here and move toward our purpose. One day at a time. You got this.